Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Sick of This show. I'm Nick Paro, your host. This is the Sick of This Shit publications, and I'm welcoming on my good friend, um, host and co-creator at Gen Xe, and sci-fi author and civic Wonder Man in the background, Lawrence Winnerman. Welcome, my friend. How are you?
What's up? I'm good, man. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. We were talking a little bit before the show. I'm tired, but I'm good. I think we're all a little tired, but I think there's some hope
Yeah.
going around today, and the last couple days, and a lot of joy with the major wins of the people who voted for Democratic candidates and came out in massive numbers to say freedom over fascism and that we like our democracy. And I thought that was amazing. And that gives me a lot of hope. So
Yeah.
I wanted to get your thoughts on that today as we talk about how words meet actions and what that means for us as creators, but also what that means for everyone in the audience and our friends who are with us, and who keep coming back in our communities that we're building both here, Gen Xe, Banner and Backbone, Blue Amp Media, and all of the other places that you have a part in, and you're a big member of my community. I mean, can you introduce yourself, Lawrence, for anyone who doesn't know you in the audience,
Yeah.
um, which everyone should if they don't know already? But good
I
morning.
mean, I was going to start this off by saying, man, don't tell your wife, but that buzz cut looks good on you.
I know, except for that big bald spot in the middle.
uh, you know, uh, yeah, it still looks good, man.
Thanks.
Props for whoever gave you that buzz cut.
That was me.
Oh yeah, all right. Well, there you go. It looks good. And the
Thanks.
big bushy beard, nicely done.
Thanks.
Um, oh, and I made him blush. Isn't that cute? I'm Lawrence Winnerman. I am, like Nick said, the co-founder of Gen Xe, and my co-founder Dana Dubois and I are the hosts of the Daily Whatever Show, which is a weekly, daily morning show, 10 a.m. Eastern Time, Monday through Friday, and then on Saturdays we go at noon. Um, I am also a science fiction author. I've got another Substack, lwinner.substack.com, which is where I am serializing my science fiction novel. And I'm working for Blue Amp Media with Cliff Schechter and David Schuster, and kind of to help turn that into sort of a bigger networky kind of thing, which is eating up a lot of consuming a lot of my time, but in a good way. It's really
Yeah,
kind of amazing and fun to be working on big projects that are potentially going to be like a big platform for many, many people.
that's
Um,
awesome.
yeah, so lots of cool stuff going on. I lived in Seattle for 30 years and recently, about a year and a half ago, moved back to Indiana, where my family is in Fort Wayne, Indiana, so that I could be near my mom as she gets older. And so I'm even now, like, 18 months in, still kind of going through culture shock, which is kind of to the point of the question that you asked me, like super weird to be in a place where, on election night, I didn't have anybody to watch it with. Like I could have watched it with my family. We're all
Yeah.
liberals, but there was no like community here that I could go hang out and watch the election results come in with. And I'm kind of walking around with a grin on my face and realizing, oh, these people in Kroger probably aren't feeling the same kind of joy that I'm feeling. So yeah, it's been a bit strange.
Well, I live in a rural place too, so just like everyone knows, I live in Arkansas now. But it's funny that we both lived in Seattle for roughly 10 years at the same time. Um, I lived in I lived in the Tacoma area more than Seattle.
Yeah,
But I worked in Seattle, and the surrounding area. I worked at Amazon. I worked at a local pickup and delivery truck company, well, a national company, but locally.
right.
Um, and so I Drove around the areas. I love Seattle. It's one of my favorite places, to be totally honest. It's so cool, so
It's
fun.
a great city, yeah, and I mean, the city is awesome, and then also, like, the surrounding area is just so beautiful.
Oh yeah.
Um, I lived there for 30 years, like I said, and, I would go hiking, even after decades of being there, and I would still have moments of just sort of awe at, like, "Oh my god," like, we're 30 minutes outside of the city, and we're hiking,
Hmm.
like, you know,
You're on the
short
ocean coast and you're looking at like sand rock beaches, and
Yeah,
or my favorite was always when, because I was in the Joint Base Lewis McChord area and
yeah,
Tacoma, is so when you hit one of the I-5 interchange, whatever it is that gets around towards Renton.
yeah,
On good days, when it's really clear out, you can see both um, Mount St. Helens and Mount Rainier. And
yep,
that was one of the coolest things because you could see in the distance, and you could tell the earth was round by this because you could see how much lower St. Helens looked and smaller it looked compared to Rainier. Yet
yeah,
St. Helens is massive, is so big.
yep,
And like there were cool times when you could be closer to St. Helens and you could see three volcanoes at once.
right,
Like
right.
you could look south and
Good,
you're in Hood in Oregon and you're like, wow, there's three freaking volcanoes right here. And we're attached to one of the largest volcanic structures in the world
right,
with the shoot off vents for Yellowstone,
yeah,
which is why
yeah,
Yellowstone never blows up. For people who want to know why that supermassive volcano doesn't explode, is because there's other vents around it, like Mount Shasta and Mount Hood and Mount Baker and Mount Rainier and St. Helens and all the others.
yeah. Yeah, beautiful days where you could, if you drive a little north, you see Mount Rainier and Mount Baker, and yeah, just sort of the preponderance of majestic, like, mountain
Mhm.
volcanoes on the
Yeah,
in the Seattle area is really incredible.
yeah. Um, Thanks for reminiscing with me on this. I like
Yeah,
talking
absolutely.
about this area. It's fun. And yeah, mountains out, sun's out, mountains out, and that's when you know it's going to be a great day.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lefty Prof.
I don't know if
Um,
you've seen this, but I have a T-shirt of a flag that I made for Seattle. So Seattle had a contest, right? Like, Seattle just has the
yeah.
stupidest city flag, and so they were having a contest to remake it. And I came up with a design that I really loved. I loved it enough I made it a T-shirt. But it's basically just, like, this kind of representation through triangles, through, kind of stacked triangles of Mount Rainier, and I called it "Mountains Out" because that's such a classic Seattle term. Like, you don't say, like, "Oh, it's sunny." You say, "Oh, the mountain's out," which
Hmm.
means it's sunny and clear and there's good visibility. And
One of the like
Mount
5 days
Rainier,
in the year.
right? Yeah, for the 5 days where that's actually true. And yeah, and people know what you're saying. Like, oh, "Mountains Out" basically means to anyone in that area, like, it's a nice day outside.
Yeah, mountains out. Go grab a bag of dicks. And
Totally.
you can say that in Seattle, and nobody bats an eye because there is a burger joint called Dick's, and
Right.
they hand you a brown paper bag and say, "Here's your bag of dicks,"
Yep.
basically,
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
walk
It's a drive-in.
away. You so it does all make sense if you're from the Seattle area. But now we don't live there. Now we're in red areas. Now you're in Indiana. I'm in Arkansas. And we're in places that, let's say, don't always value human dignity or human rights or freedoms or bodily autonomy or sexual orientation or anything, pretty much anything that's not heterosexual, straight, boring Christofascism.
Yep.
Um, I want to get your opinion before we go into words meets like actions overall. I want to get your opinion on Zoran Mamdani winning in New York City, and the propaganda scare that they're going to try and do about Sharia law.
Oh,
And are you afraid that Sharia law is coming to the US through Zoran Mamdani? Or are you more afraid that Christo-fascist Sharia law is coming to the US and already here through our presidency and the
Yeah.
regime?
I mean, first I'll say I love the fact that they call it Sharia law, which, like, I'm pretty sure the word Sharia just means law. So they're basically saying law. Are you
It's
afraid
like
of
chai tea.
law? Um, yeah, I mean, I know that was a softball setup, right? Obviously, I'm way more concerned about, like, Christo-fascism, and I would even kind of go so far as to say, um, you know, uh, Judeo-Christian fascism, right? Like, there are, uh, I think, I know I'm not the only one who thinks this. I was listening to Peter Beinart recently, who was saying something very similar, and I know you and I have both said this, that, like, Israel under Netanyahu has kind of traded away uh, any credibility, because Netanyahu's goal has only ever been to stay out of jail, and also to basically extract, inflict maximum pain on Palestinians, up to and including, a genocide, and
Yes.
the possibility of removing all Palestinians from the Gaza Strip, and if he had his way, probably the West Bank too. Um, and that is being done under, I think, a baldly false reading of any kind of Jewish spiritualism, right? Like, it's
Yeah.
antithetical in the same way that radical Islam is antithetical to the nature of Islam, and radical Christo-fascist, nationalism in the United States is antithetical to the teachings of Jesus. I think what Netanyahu has done in Israel, is currently doing in Israel, is really antithetical to the nature of Judaism. And so, yeah, like, I think we should be afraid in all places of any kind of religious extremism that inspires people to hate other people rather than to love them. Like,
Yeah.
never has there been an easier test of, are you a true adherent of your religion? In that, does it make you hate people, or does it make you love people? If it makes you hate
Mhm.
people, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah. No, I think it's funny you say that. I've always had that view about religion is I'm not really religious. I am culturally Jewish. My family is very Jewish on one side. We can trace our family line back to Israel all the way through history. Like we can do that. We also have the genetic markers for it. Like we have the Ashkenazi Jewish genetic markers that sometimes suck. Like um, actually, being gluten intolerant is an Ashkenazi thing. So there's like real people who are gluten intolerant, but we won't get into that shit because that's a show I could talk with Jake Summers about gluten intolerance and the fakeness that bullshit. But anyway, um, yeah, it's my view has always been on religion in general is if it's doing good and it's helping you and it's making you a better person, then it's a good thing. If it's helping you be a better person for you and your community, it's a good thing because that's what religion is supposed to be. It's supposed to be a community building experience and like a community building tool and icebreakers and great way to get together as a group and make some good group think. And if it's used as a weapon, it's bad because it
Right.
can be easily abused. Because those who tend to search for religious meaning or need faith in that way tend to be really open to indoctrination at that point or easily influenced because they're searching for something really desperately um, at times. But a lot of loose faith providers like you and I would consider loose faith. And so, what do you think about, or that's not really a big question we need to get into, but like, I think you're right, is the Netanyahu is also has ruined the meaning of never again.
Right.
And single handedly, Netanyahu's Israeli government has decided for the entire Jewish population around the world, for all of us. He and his government decided for all of the Jewish people around the world because they are claiming to be a Jewish ethno state. That's what they want to be, is that all Jewish people believe that we should murder a bunch of people in one place, genocide them, and take over that land, and that's okay. And that we should perform a genocide and a holocaust in nature by legal definition, because you and I talked to Qasim Rashid about that, was
Mhm.
the legal definition of a holocaust and what that actually means, and the fact that they're grouping people together and bombing them. And when you drop a 50, 20,000 pound bomb or whatever 1,000 pound bomb they're dropping on people, that burns people alive.
Right.
And that's the definition of a holocaust, is grouping people together in an area that you told them would be safe and that they're not going to be harmed in, and then bombing them and or burning them alive. Um, and yeah,
Yeah.
we've
Yeah.
confronted a lot.
I think that Netanyahu and the actions of his government have you're exactly right. Like they've made Jewish people around the world less safe.
Yes.
And I have said this in the past, and I'm not the only one saying it, that like the dreams of anti-Semites across the ages have been accomplished by Benjamin Netanyahu by creating, by kind of making the Jewish brand, if you will, so toxic at the moment that like yeah, they're Ku Klux Klan people who would love what he's been able to do just
Yeah.
by acting so unethically and in such an evil manner.
I think that's why he's so welcome into their political circle, just in general, is he is them.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
thinking on words meet actions, then, is as two Jewish men, as two men who are culturally Jewish, have been raised at times in the faith of Judaism itself. What do you believe is a way that we can put our words into actionable steps to stop the spread of this hate and push back and create an image of Judaism that isn't based on the hate, but is based on the tenets of the actual faith and moral systems?
Yeah, I mean, uh, I've written about this that there's a concept in Jewish kind of spirituality and sort of thought about daily life called tikkun olam, which is this concept that the world around us is broken and it is our job to fix it, or that we ourselves are broken and it's our job to fix ourselves so that we can help to fix the world. It's repairing the world. And I love that concept, and it comes from a place of I think deep faith in humanity, and this idea that no matter how bad things are and no matter how much someone has fucked up, that they're still redeemable, right? That they're uh, that anyone can be saved, right?
Yeah.
Like one of the things that always kind of rubbed me the wrong way about the Christian faith, and no offense to any Christian folks here, is just sort of the uh, there's so much talk of sin in Christianity, right? And kind of redeemable and irredeemable. And, I get it that Jesus is supposed to be able to forgive you of all your sins if your faith is true. Uh, but in Tikkun Olam, in that kind of read on the Jewish faith, it's just kind of like, we're all broken, like we're all gonna fuck up. And, the point is you can fix it, and obviously there are things in the world and things that people can do that can't be fixed, but you should at least fucking try, right? Like
Yeah.
you should at least try. Like, why wouldn't you try? If you really want to be forgiven, if you really want to make amends, you should try. And so that's something that's been really, personally kind of valuable to me. And I think, part of what we're doing here, I get that, like, to a lot of the world, it might look like, oh, you're just sitting on your asses and talking to each other, on video. But I honestly think we're building a community here. I think that
Mhm.
um, action is coming, and part of what you and others have been able to do through Banner and Backbone is to really like turn that into like real action for a number of things. So yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of our job, is to try to make the world a better place, and everyone does it in a different way.
I think that's great, and I'm glad you brought up Banner and Backbone a little bit. I actually want to talk about Blue Amp Media with you,
Yeah,
more than Banner and Backbone at the moment. Just so everyone knows, Lawrence and I are the co-founders of Banner and Backbone. Um, our civic-minded platform. I'll put it up on the screen here for a second underneath us as a QR code. Come join us there. We're doing some great things. Last night we did a 4-hour rerun of the first 4 episodes of the Anti-Fascist Book Club. Tonight we're coming back with episodes 5 through 8 for another 4-hour special of the
nice.
Anti-Fascist Book Club. This one is all about On Tyranny by Timothy Snyder. So it's like an actual book club group where you get 4 hours of us just talking about On Tyranny in depth, and like what we think about it and around it. Like, come join us over there. We're doing some great things. We've got some amazing interviews, and we've made some great connections. And one of those just happens to be through our other original co-founder, Fred Pogue, um, is Blue Amp Media. And Cliff Schechter and David Schuster and that group. And I would love to get your thoughts on Blue Amp, because you work with them, and you are a contributor with them, and you just put a post out the other day and it was incredible. I read through the whole thing. Everyone should. I'll go find it. Or if Lawrence, if you have the link for it, I can put it
Yeah,
up on
yeah.
the screen too. Um, is I want you to talk about your experience at Blue Amp Media and what you can talk about the idea of community building and network building, and how it's more than, like you said, more than just looking like we're sitting on our butts, but what is actually going on behind the scenes, in what you can talk about, and how we're building that for all of us, not just Nick and Lawrence, but for everyone who's here, for the 122 people who are in the audience, who are watching on YouTube or Twitch with us today too. Like, how does Blue Amp fit into all of this? How do you fit into Blue Amp, and where do you think we all can go as a group?
Yeah. Yeah, well, thanks. I appreciate this. I didn't realize we were going to talk about Blue Amp today, but I'm happy to. Yeah, so I'm basically the chief marketing officer. It's definitely one of those situations where like it's such a small team that it's kind of like, hey, what title do you want?
Mhm.
You want to be CMO? Cool, cool. Yeah, no, that
You are
absolutely.
now.
Yeah, you are now. And it's like, I have a marketing idea. And, they're like, great, that sounds great. Go do it. You're the CMO now. So it's a really kind of a neat idea in the sense that, Cliff is a political consultant and, sort of worked for years in the industry, like worked in fundraising, just has all this kind of real, like, boots on the ground experience. And David Schuster, of course, is a news anchor who is currently, his main gig is over at TYT at the Young Turks doing Rebel HQ. But he and Cliff are friends, and kind of in the same way that Dana and I were like, hey, wouldn't it be fun if we just kind of did a show as friends? So they do a show called Amped Up. That's 2 days a week. It's Wednesdays and Thursdays at 2 p.m. on both days. And it's really like them just in conversation with whoever they can kind of get in the door. But because both of them have such big networks and connections, like
Mhm.
they get really great people. And kind of thanks to me and Frederick being there, kind of getting a lot of our crew kind of in through the door. Your day is coming, Nick.
I
And
appreciate that.
yeah, and it's having these reality-based conversations like the rest of us are trying to do, I think, on Substack, and elevating voices. So I kind of walked everybody through like a branding exercise. We added media to the end because there is a goal of having it be more like a network eventually, where there are
Mhm.
multiple shows and multiple contributors, and a kind of a network of contributors who are feeding written content and video content in. There's some things that I can't talk about that are
Yeah.
coming very soon that are really, really, really hugely exciting. And the goal here is really to amplify and elevate. I think Cliff and David are sort of very aware that they're like, two cis straight white Jewish guys of Gen X age, right?
Hmm.
Um, and so there's definitely kind of this awareness that amplifying voices means amplifying all voices, and so they recently did something called set up something called the Sound Check Fund, which is basically like micro grants essentially to content creators, a variety of different content creators. And they, the first round was five. They picked five people. Some of them here on Substack, some from like TikTok and Twitter. Um, Many of them were, there were several women among the group. Some of them are Latino or people of color. And the idea is, to really find like voices, up and coming voices, and to center those voices and elevate them, um, which I think is in alignment with what a lot of us are trying to do here on Substack.
Oh, absolutely. And I really wanted to bring up Blue Amp in that way because I think it's great to talk about, like, in the context of words meet actions and what you're supporting and how you're helping grow a system where they're actually supporting small creators and independent media creators, and you're helping build that ecosystem in the branding and the design, and it looks cool. I love all the work that you've done there, and I can
Thanks.
see the Lawrence touch on things already, and I know you at this point a little bit, and I can see your touch in it, and it looks great. I think it's refined, it's really nice. I love the work they're doing, and I'm glad to promote Blue Amp Media on here.
Thanks.
And there's a QR code in the top left corner above my head, for anyone who's watching, with Lawrence's article on Blue Amp Media. So feel free to scan that QR code, and go like and share and forward that article to everyone because it's really important.
Thanks.
Um, and
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
go ahead.
the article is about kind of how politics is everything these days, and culture is politics. Politics is culture. A lesson that the right wing learned a long time ago, right? I think the right wing looked at the counterculture movement of the 60s and 70s and identified it as a threat and decided, like very obviously, like through the Powell memo and other things, decided to build a massive behind the scenes machine to move against and kind of capture culture, recapture culture, which they've done and they've executed on. And the reason that we are in the fucking shit show we're in right now is because they achieved a lot of their goals.
Hmm.
um, and uh, many other people have said that that reality has a liberal bias. I still think that's true. And I think that culture tends to have a liberal bias too, right? Because many, not all, but many people who are talented artists or musicians or writers tend to think deeply about things and examine. And I think still that when you do that, you kind of end up opening your mind and becoming more compassionate and more liberal.
Hmm.
Um, you know, like it's yeah, like I think that we really have to kind of reach back into the idea of there's no piece of American culture that we should be ceding to the right wing. And part of the reason that you and I did Banner and Backbone is because
Hmm.
the flag shouldn't be owned by the right, right? Like the
Yeah.
the national anthem, the flag, any kind of symbol of patriotism, it's not owned by the right. And I think too many of us kind of hit the point recently where we were like, oh man, every time I see the American flag on a truck now, like it makes me think they're probably a fucking Trumpy, and it makes me sad. And it shouldn't be that way.
Hmm. Yeah, it shouldn't. And I'm glad you're talking about, like, how the impacts and the, like, the idea of cultural seeding and where we shouldn't be giving ground in any way. I want to get your thoughts on how you think Gen Xe and Blue Ant Media and Banner and Backbone and shows like mine, how do you see those fitting into a cultural shift? Not just a political, but like you said, a cultural shift is I want, and I put it out this morning, and Stephanie Wilson, good friend in of the show of Banner and Backbone, just a great historian, person I talked to a lot, said, We need what comes next. She asked me yesterday, what comes next? What do you see coming next? And then she talked about it is there needs to be a longer term plan than Project 2028,
Yeah.
because that seems derivative. Um, what do you think about how do you see us possibly fitting in? Here's the overall question: how do you see us fitting in with our communities and our publications and how and our networks into, say, a 50-year plan for a cultural shift of Project 2075? And
Yeah.
yeah, that's a long way away, but it's a long project to fix culture.
Yeah, I that's a great question, and I kind of see two, um, two answers, right? Like one is sort of immediate term, part of what we're doing, and particularly on Gen Xe, and I think the vision for Blue Ant Media is to kind of do this as well, um, is to talk about cultural things, and so Fred and I. Have a new show called Biscuits and Gravy that we're doing on Saturday mornings, right? And it's kind of, shooting the shit, but also like taking on some cultural subjects from a more sort of laid back point of view. And I know there's one topic here that I brought up a couple times, and people are going to get so angry that I'm bringing it up again. I will not dwell on this. Uh, but like Dana, through her sort of social, her online browsing and kind of the things she pays attention to, there's this guy she follows who is a professor of rhetoric, and for whatever reason, some woman contacted him and was describing how she'd had an experience with a kind of right wing guy. They'd gone on a date, and as things started to move into sexy time, she noticed that he didn't smell very good, and when kind of it came down to it, it's because he is such a MAGA douche bro who like listens to Andrew Tate and all those people that he doesn't want to touch his butthole, and so he doesn't wipe all the way. He doesn't
I knew
walk
exactly where you were going.
in the shower. And and this is gross and disgusting and toxic and like literally toxic and physically,
Unhealthy as
like
fuck.
it's just disgusting, right? And but how can we counter, like these are the kind of people, if you say, well, medically that's not very healthy, like they don't care. They don't believe in germs, for God's, like they want to drink raw milk and eat raw meat. And I think the way that you counter that is you fucking laugh at it, right? Like, and
Yeah.
so so Frederick and I, like, we had a lot of fun talking about it because we were just mocking, just absolutely, uh yeah, seriously, I hope nobody was drinking coffee, otherwise I owe you a keyboard. um
I'm glad I wasn't drinking mine because,
yeah.
God.
Yeah.
Um,
And so like I think what you do, like you talk about stuff like this and you point out that it's ridiculous, and you can, yeah, like we kind of need to do that across the board, right?
yeah.
And we need to, we need to address culture, like from a sports point of view, right? That the World Series, like how many people were rooting for the Blue Jays just because we thought it would be fun for a Canadian team to give Trump the finger and go hang out with Mark Carney instead, right? And but even sort of, like, why does MAGA own NASCAR, right? Like,
Mhm.
there are all kinds of spaces in which we've sort of seeded and we don't show up. And even if we enjoy something, like, if we enjoy auto racing, it feels like we're not allowed to, or we're not welcome in those spaces. And so, yeah, I think on the one hand, us addressing cultural issues in the moment
Mhm.
is really important. And we have to show up and be a part of those conversations and control the Overton window, right? Like start
Yeah.
pulling the Overton window back to the left. And then in a bigger framework, kind of your project 2075, I really love that frame. I mean, I think the way we do that is by framing things like that, by thinking really big. And that I have written a couple of articles that are on Banner and Backbone about
Hmm.
things like constitutional amendments, right?
Yep.
Like, we become so convinced that this strict constructionist idea that the Constitution can no longer be amended, like we bought it in a way. Like, obviously we have, because we haven't even tried to amend the Constitution in 40 years at
And
this point.
yeah, and over a generation, over
Yeah,
multiple
yeah,
generations at this
yeah.
point.
And
Um,
so, big ideas. And, I was on Stephanie's show a couple days ago as well. And I love that closing question that she has of like, what's your big, hairy, audacious idea to kind of change things? And what I threw out there was we need to expand the size of the House of Representatives. The size of the House shouldn't be fixed. It was fixed by Congress itself in the 1920s. Um, and this idea that the House can only be 435 people is wrong. Our population has doubled and tripled and quadrupled since the 1920s. We should have a Congress that has enough people to adequately represent. And by doing that, it would mean that fringier candidates probably could get elected, but maybe that would be good because it would result in a more parliamentary kind of makeup where
mhm.
coalitions of left-wing people who could get elected in urban cores, and coalitions of more moderate Democrats and even moderate Republicans, maybe those people could get elected in smaller districts and then come together in kind of a coalition. Like, what would it be like for the first time we had to, they had to elect a Speaker of the House who might not have a majority party, right? Who, if there
Mhm.
were enough different coalitions, it would, literally be sort of coalition building just to get a speaker elected. That could be potentially really interesting, or we
I
wouldn't
think
have a
that's a
system like
fantastic
this,
idea.
you know? Yeah,
Can we go down that rabbit hole a little bit? I want to go on this tangent because this
sure.
is words meeting actions. Like an action is us building a 50-year plan and figuring out what actually needs to be done over the next 50 years to successfully build a democracy that is long lasting for the next 250 or 200 years after that. So it's a 500-year democracy. Like, how cool would that be to be part of building a 50-year plan that restores our, and maybe we don't live to see the fruits of all of it, but if we have a plan in place, that means we know where we're going and that we're going to get there and that we can fight for what we want, not just against what we don't want. And so to me, that's coalition building, is fighting for what you want and sometimes having to work with people you don't like. So can you talk a little bit more about your idea of a parliamentary ish system and what you think that might look like and how that could impact us on, and the expansion of the House of Representatives? Like, what do you believe is a good percentage expansion or number that we should be at right now? Um,
Yeah. Yeah. So a couple of things, right? Like I see folks in the chat saying like, we've got to dream big and not accept crumbs anymore. I absolutely agree. And I think, I guess here's the thing, right? Like when I was writing the article on constitutional amendments and whatnot, I was like, well, this is kind of an audacious idea and people are going to poo-poo it. And I was like, I think I'm firmly in my I just don't give a fuck anymore era,
mhm.
right? And I think a
Yes.
lot of us are in that place where it's like, oh, James Carville doesn't think this is a good idea. Fuck you,
Oh,
James Carville. I
too
am
fucking
so
bad for
tired
him.
of people like him telling us like what an appropriate strategy is for shit. We have been dreaming too small for too long. We've been told that our imagination is, unwise, and that the dreams that we could have of a, bigger, freer, more just, more righteous America aren't practical. Like, fuck that. Like, again, kind of with the Tikkun Olam thing, we should at least try, right? Like,
Yeah.
if I died tomorrow, would I be sad that I accepted America the way that it is, which is deeply flawed and broken? or would I be more sad, would I regret more like having at least tried and put some big ideas out there? Absolutely, I want to put some big ideas out there. Um, Hang on, I'm asking ChatGPT something at the
Yeah.
moment. Um,
No, I think it's great though. I think the idea of big ideas is what we need. Is it's an impact and a footprint and a plan. It's not dream big, it's plan and implement big. We need to stop just we don't want to just dream. Like we're in the action phase right now, which means we need to build the plan and then implement it as we're doing it. But it needs to be uh, it cannot be the tech model of move fast and break things. It has to
right.
be the model of move deliberate and create things. But
Yeah.
anyway, go back into the
Yeah.
what we
Yeah.
were talking
So,
about voting and or expansion of the House.
well, yeah. So there's this idea that democracies that have a house, the lower chamber of their, or if they're unicameral, right? But the chamber of their legislature that is more population driven, right? More
Yeah,
representative. And somebody in the chat was pointing out that the Senate is the most unfair body. It is. It's only two senators per state. Madison thought that the Senate also should be proportional, based on population size. The thing about the Senate is that it is baked into the Constitution in Article 1, whereas the size of the House is not. The size of the House is controlled through the US Code. It is literally decided by Congress itself. And in the 1920s, Congress decided to cap the size of the House at 435. There are a lot of democracies where the lower chamber, the more populous representative chamber, if the number of representatives in that chamber is the cube root of the population, that's actually kind of the ideal number of representatives to have. And so if you look at the US, our population is 342 million right now. The cube root of that is 700. And so that kind of gives us a guideline of like, we should at least have 700 representatives in the US House of Representatives. I personally think it should be probably closer to 1,000. People will object on cost and where we put them all. I don't think that matters. I think that we can figure out how
we
to
can figure that shit out.
right. We can figure out how to redo the House chamber so that people could fit, and or televote, or whatever, however we do it. And the cost, when you consider the cost of actual government workers and say doubling or tripling the size of House of Representatives, a drop in the proverbial bucket in terms of what we spend as a nation on things like military and other stuff. And I think if you had more representatives, obviously you would have smaller districts, right? Like population
Hmm.
wise, you would have smaller, and kind of because they were smaller, they would have to be more geographically compact. So we would at least shift the story a little bit away from gerrymandering, because with really big districts, you can make them sprawling and weird and non-contiguous and whatever. Um, if smaller districts would be more compact, you're also then, like I said, having the opportunity to get people, of very different mindsets elected, right? Like,
Yeah,
imagine how many districts New York City would have. And, what if like 10 Zoran Mamdanis could get elected from New York City? And then you've actually got like a democratic socialist wing inside the Congress, and, other big cities like Chicago and LA and Seattle, would probably have a couple of people who might be Democratic Socialists as well getting elected. And then you've got a caucus, of like-minded people who could ally themselves with others and actually influence policy. So yeah, I'm going to pause there because I
no, that's great. So how do you imagine that would impact the current two-party system? Could we do it? Because my vision is not two parties, but I want your thoughts on it.
yeah, well, I mean, like we're we're kind of trapped right now, right? We're in this catch-22 where I think there are many of us who want a party other than the Democrats to be able to vote for, a party that's bolder and more progressive and more daring and willing to take risks like this. And then also, we are stuck in a situation where, thanks to partly stuff that's been baked into U.S. code and partly stuff that's baked into the rules and regulations of states and the current
Mhm.
existing party apparatus, it would be really freaking hard to stand up a new party and to get it geographically viable, distributed across 50 states and in all the jurisdictions you would need to, and financially viable to do that, and then also actually on the ballot in all of the places we would need it to be on the ballot. And so I think maybe expanding the House is a better way to get there, because then you start getting into a situation where people who might represent smaller parties could be elected to Congress, and then they could help change the US code so that it was easier, things like the Federal Elections Commission, and the financial reporting requirements that big parties are supposed to adhere to. All of that could be made easier, right? And so
Mhm.
I feel like it's sort of a sneaky way to get to more party diversity, because by expanding the size of the House, you get more more diverse points of view, and I think then you have the ability to kind of change some of the rules and regulations so that you could actually create uh, different parties, because absolutely, like, the two-party system is killing us right now, absolutely killing us. um,
Yeah.
yeah, so
And we're getting close to the top of the hour, so I don't want to go too deep into. I don't know what you have next. I have a show with Melissa in half an hour.
yeah, I got to drop at the top of the hour, unfortunately.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So I want to give you a time to sell yourself and what you do and all your work, because that's part of this. Is I Lawrence. So for those who don't know, Lawrence and Dana, his partner at Gen XE, best friend, um, they are the ones who um, and Melissa Corrigan are the three who really got me started on Substack. Accidentally, I jumped into a live with Lawrence to listen in because Melissa Corrigan was there. And I jumped on to Gen XE to hear, and then I found an amazing community, and they have helped get me here, like in so many ways. And so I want Lawrence to sell yourself, and everybody go subscribe to him. Go become a paid subscriber to Lawrence, both Gen XE and his Lawrence Winnerman rights. But I'm going to hand it over to you, brother, so you can sell yourself even more and get your
Sure.
stuff out there.
Yeah. I I appreciate you giving me the opportunity, and I have no idea what to say. I just threw the link for Gen XE in the chat. We'd love it if people would come subscribe. I happen to think that with the Daily Whatever show, Dana and I have kind of accidentally created a really fun and vibrant morning show, and that it is daily. We are putting in the work, and I think we just keep getting better and kind of delivering really quality content. We're really sort of branching out and discovering more people to be on the show, and just all these really cool voices. And the chat there is so much fun. Like, part of what we both love about it is that the chat is really vibrant, and we try to pay attention to it and kind of bring chat comments into the conversation. Um, yeah, so the Daily Whatever show, super fun. Please come watch if you can. It is very early for West Coast people. I apologize. It's 7 a.m. on the West Coast, 10 a.m. on the East Coast. Um, uh, but Gen XE, with the Daily Whatever show, Dana and I were like, we talk every day anyway. What if we just sort of invited all these people into our friendship and let them listen in, which is fun and has been really, really popular so far. Gen XE is just about both of us being Gen Xers, and but not the like creepy Trump voting Gen Xers, like the ones that actually
Wipe
uh,
their butts.
right, the ones that wipe their butts and like, probably moved away from home and are interested in diverse points of view and diverse people. And yeah, it's been a lot of fun to do that. And then I've got a Substack called it's just called Lawrence Winnerman Science Fiction. I'm a science fiction writer. That's at lwinner.substack.com. I don't contribute as much to Banner and Backbone right now because I'm kind of swamped with my new day job, which is working with Blue Ant Media. But you can find stuff of mine at Banner and Backbone, and now I'm starting to publish some stuff on Blue Ant Media. So yeah, multiple places.
You're everywhere, and I love it. Thank you so much, Lawrence, for joining me.
Thank you.
Please go subscribe to all of Lawrence's platforms. And then finally, real quick, Sick of This Shit Publications, still rocking that new logo that Stephanie Wilson helped put together for all of us. I think it's amazing. Subscribe to me, subscribe to Lawrence, become a paid subscriber if you can to both of us on whatever you can. It really, really helps right now. Like, you all drive our ability to do this. You all are the reason we can do this daily and often hourly at times. You're the reason. And so we thank you. And Lawrence, I thank you for coming on and joining me today. It's been a while since we've had this fun time.
I know, it's been so much fun to catch up. I love it.
And I look forward to seeing you again soon on the Daily Whatever here coming up sometime soon. Dana and I are talking about when I can come back on.
I think next week, right?
I think it should be next week I should be on. So I look forward to seeing y'all there. Yeah. And also support Lawrence on Alpaca Lunch. I don't have any links for it. But go buy some t-shirts from him. Go buy merch, all the shit. He does so much, and it's so amazing. So go support Lawrence in any way you can.
Thanks,
I appreciate him. He's my good friend and brother. Thanks for coming on, and I'll see you. I'll talk to you again soon, and see you later, my friend.
All right.
Thank you. Everyone in the audience, have a great day. And as always, let's stop being sick of this shit, and let's start doing this shit. Have a great day, y'all.
Thanks.